Time travel has captured the minds of people for probably as long as we've actively been measuring it. From the tangled web that is Doctor Who, to that one obligatory Star Trek episode per season where nothing actually happens and you can probably just skip it honestly, it's everywhere in media, and this obviously extends to video games. Whether it's time travel as a theme, a setting, or even a mechanic, developers give a lot of care and attention to the logistics of the manipulation of time, what it means and how to really, truly do it justice. TimeSplitters Future Perfect, the 2005 finale to the trilogy from the minds of Free Radical Games, is absolutely not one of them. In the classic British way, they decided that they knew better than everyone else and took it upon themselves to teach everyone how to really show reverence to the titans of time travel in the most disrespectful way possible. Hello everyone, I'm the Resident Gremlin, your second favourite gremlin on the internet, and today we're going to talk about TimeSplitters Future Perfect. This being the third game in the series, we're going to need to quickly touch on two because Future Perfect takes place literally directly after it. So, in TimeSplitters 2, Cortez and Hart infiltrate a space station controlled by the TimeSplitters, a race of genocidal warmongers bent on galactic conquest and the eradication of the human race, that are just these weird, fleshy, pink dudes. Look at this guy. How the fuck do you even see? They also have a time machine which they use to hide the time crystals, the machine's power source, throughout time to stop the duo from getting them. Naturally, this doesn't work and Cortez retrieves all of them before escaping the now self-destructing station, Hart dying in the process. RIP Hart, you have like 2 minutes of screen time. Which brings us to the start of Future Perfect, where Cortez is shot down and has to book it across what remains of Earth to deliver the time crystals, all while the TimeSplitters are invading. And here's probably one of the few times I'll actually talk about the gameplay. It's a shooter. Specifically, it's a first-person shooter from the late 6th generation. It's a fun game and mechanically solid, but there's really not much to write home about except for them removing the awkward as hell GoldenEye style aiming, thank God. What we can write home about though is the weapons, because good lord, look at these. The animations, the sounds, the reload. Look at this. Free Radical were cooking with this, and it's the first level. Speaking of fighting through the hordes of splitters, Cortez eventually makes it back with the crystals, and we're given the plan of action. See, when someone time travels, it leaves behind residue, which they plan to track back to the source, hoping to stop the time splitter war before it even begins. And they need their best man on it, and that's Cortez, because we have a whole last game to get through, let's be real. And the first stop off is 1924, where the readings are the highest. And because time travel is a wildly inexact science for obvious reasons, Cortez ends up in the ocean alongside the rowboat of one Captain Ash, who's been in the series since the very beginning, but only now he's higher definition and has developed an actual personality. Cortez was also him during TimeSplitters 2, but that's a whole thing I have no interest in getting into right now. That was old time travel. This is new time travel. Please keep up. Ash is on his way to the island as well to find his companion before the British Navy sinks the entire thing. Luckily, they're waiting for a flare to signal the attack, and you know exactly what's about to happen here. Plan thoroughly beans, we start into Scotland the Brave, and god damn, listen to that music. I'd argue that this is probably one of the best levels in the game, not just from the music or the setting, not that sieging a castle in the middle of a naval bombardment isn't amazing in and of itself, but because it feels like it's the most complete. Quick progression through different locales, fun little set pieces that can easily be missed like this one, beautiful weapon design, as well as progression that isn't just shooting your problems. Well, it is shooting your problems, but this time your problem isn't just dudes with guns. It's a barrel. A barrel with actual physics for the oil inside. Love this stuff. Many would call this a flex. I'll call it devs thought it would be cool, and lo and behold it was. It's a very small detail, but a fun one, and also mechanically required. There's even a part where you have to use the time device to lower a drawbridge, which is a fun little problem solving tool used like 2 to 3 times throughout the playthrough. A shame, but what can you do? This level also has the introduction to the driving sections, and being 100% honest, this just kinda sucks. Partly because the controls are a bit ass, partly because they're so short they feel like interludes added because they felt like they needed to. It just kind of feels superfluous, if I'm honest. But this isn't the main focus of today. No, the main focus is this.
Hey, up here. What? But you're me. I knew you'd say that. Here. A key. But what does it... You'll figure it out. Just make sure to pass it on when you're done. What the hell just happened?
So, the door's locked, and Cortez drops the key to Cortez to get through the door. Then, Cortez travels back in time through a time portal to give himself the key. This is where the game starts to enter into the world of paradoxes, and I begin my slow descent into madness. Specifically in this instance, we have a causal loop, commonly called the bootstrap paradox, wherein a person, object, information or action ultimately causes itself. Cortez can't progress without future Cortez giving him the key, allowing him to then give the key to his past self, and the loop continues infinitely. And in this loop, the key just exists. He didn't pick up the key. For all intents and purposes, he has always had the key, and while Cortez can move on, the key will forever be trapped in a 5-minute loop. And what makes this even funnier to me is that the key 100% exists in the castle somewhere, further muddying the timeline. But don't worry, it'll get so much worse. A quick jaunt and somewhat disappointing tank fight later, Cortez stumbles across another time traveller, which shouldn't be possible because we had to go through a whole thing to get the stuff to even do time travel. We blew up a space station. We were French! But we have a lead in the form of this photo that has the exact time, date and location written on the back. But God bless Anya for trying to geoguesser us through time travel. But we drop into Russia in 1969 on top of Harry Tipper, another returning character, and America's answer to Austin Powers, just without all the sexual harassment. But with much more confusing lore because in Future Perfect and 2, Tipper's a secret agent. In 1, he's a vice detective, which would be fine, except 1 is set between Future Perfect and 2. Do you know what this means, gang? Absolutely nothing. It's probably an honest continuity mistake. Please calm down. But Tipper's scoping out his old nemesis Dr. Kalos because the man kidnapped his girlfriend and is also trying to take over the world, or something, with the help of a mysterious dude from the cult of ultra science who promised the good doctor immortality for the small army he has. Weird deal, but here we go. What follows is one of the worst levels in the game, and the first of 2 stealth missions. And oh boy, is stealth extremely optional? What? Yeah, so there is no real downside to getting caught aside from fighting all the enemies in the level, which is what you signed up for when playing a first-person shooter, really. So there's also a section where you have to cover Harry with a sniper rifle and discover the importance of headshots even on easy. Full disclosure, this footage is all on easy mode. Sue me. I mean, just don't actually. I don't have the money for that. Go away. Leave me alone. There's also a second stealth section that's simply just pressing buttons while Harry gets hit on while wearing a female henchman uniform. It's 2005. This is where the humour was at the time. I wouldn't say it's aged badly. I would just say it's aged. But after another awkward driving section, you stumble across the mysterious time traveller. It actually says that's his name right there. Ushering henchmen through a portal to somewhere, but still no actual answers yet. All in all, a poor showing of a level, and while the next one is pretty basic, it gets infinite bonus points for being a train level. Seriously, train levels slap. Nothing beats them. Nothing. Play Lost Planet 2. Anyway, not a lot of time travel fuckery here. We get future Cortez taking out a helicopter while past Cortez covers his ass. Still a bootstraps paradox, but more tame than the key, purely because it's a clean loop and you're not creating a key out of nothing and submitting it to the infinity loop. But it does give me time to talk about one of my favourite, if extremely missable, parts of the game. The NPC chatter. As you progress through the levels, you will sporadically come across unnamed minions just chatting with each other. And because it is in fact scripted and not Elder Scrolls branded canned background chatter, it actually sounds like people talking with each other. Have a listen.
I'm monitoring all military traffic and there's no sign that they suspect anything. Looks like we got them with their pants down this time.
At last, over 20 years, and I've never once got successful scheme bonus. Foiled every time, right at last minute, and always by damn Perry Tipper. But not this time. Ha!
Goofiness aside, this is the load-bearing aspect of the game, because it makes the game feel so much more than just a shooter. You're fighting actual people, not just faceless Soldier Man 458. It genuinely makes the game feel more alive. Also, screw it, the goofiness is important. There is a beautiful levity to the weirdness that really sets it apart from other shooters of the time. This game is just having fun. It even has a flamboyant Bond villain with a jetpack. It's peak nonsense. Stopping the train and not running over Harry's girlfriend only gives us the next clue. A mansion that burned down in 1994 that was owned by the Brotherhood of Ultrascience, and it is covered in time goo. So it's off to Connecticut to get our balls kicked in by Joe Beff, another returning character, only kind of because while they are the same character, they're 30 years apart. Time travel's weird, yo. But into the Mansion of Madness, and the classic TimeSplitters zombie horror level. And it is a great mission on several levels, not just the floor plan. Firstly, it is genuinely creepy. It's narrow and dark, and so much more atmosphere than any other level, bar none. It's like House of the Dead mixed with Resident Evil, dropped into the middle of an arcade shooter. What it really does is it slows the game down. A lot of people would question why this is a good idea, and the answer is pacing. You really don't want a game to be full throttle all the time. You need to let the player take a step back, or in this case, step into the world of survival horror. Which is probably a pretty chill time for everyone but me, someone deathly afraid of zombies. But there's also ghosts, worms, deer men, reanimated cow carcasses, and whatever this is, but if you're going to have one horror trope, you might as well have them all. The one thing in this level I'm not particularly happy with, however, is the awkward hitboxes on the zombies. As is traditional with these types of things, zombies are really durable, but die to a single headshot. Now, it could be because I'm washed or rushing or a secret third thing, but god, I could not land headshots to save my life. It's like the hitbox was at the top of the sternum or something. The one time I'll ever ask for that weird OG aiming back, honestly. But with the spooky mansion down, we're now into a secret mine/evil lab where the Brotherhood of Ultrascience were trying to discover the secret to immortality, but instead discovered necromancy. Which, I mean, is kind of what they were after with this whole thing, just not the way they wanted. Or maybe it's because we have a sacrifice room complete with a weird Weasley man in a corpse pit. The corpse pit Cortez is dropped into, followed by a bizarrely short minecart section in which Free Radical clearly had to brute force to work because this dude is running in the cart. I love old games, man. Thank God Cortez is there to save Cortez with the power of the ghost gun and ghost goggles. And we get a section of escorting yourself through a corridor of zombies while you take out ghosts, and then the complete reverse of that directly after. Now I understand this could be seen as padding, and understandably so. It's playing the same section twice, complete with reusing the same cutscenes. But I have to humbly disagree. This is brilliant. A lot of time travel fiction likes to use the travel back to recontextualize the original sequence of events. That kind of thing. Not future perfect. Cortez just walks up to his past self, tells him what's up, then leaves. No ambiguity, just pure, unadulterated paradoxes. Even Anya is tired of this nonsense. But at least the ghost gun isn't caught in the infinite loop by that poor damned key. But we get through the mines, kill the big flesh monster again, save Joe Beth again, before we discover the name of the guy in charge, one Jacob Crow, head of the cult and the man in charge of the future company called Eugenics. Yes, Eugenics, the game is not subtle. Nor is Crow, because accessing his diary sets off the self-destruct, which is more of a leisurely stroll than a full-blown panic, actually. But now we come to the part where things start to get a little bit more loopy. So Crow is outside the mansion lamenting the loss of his research, only for his future self to appear and offer him a time device, his advanced research and knowledge of the time crystals that would be the key to immortality. He also seems to know Cortez despite never meeting him, which is another joy of time travel stories, honestly. With the Crows gone, there's nothing to do but head to 2052 and see what can be uncovered about the origin of the TimeSplitters. Time for another stealth section that's fine, but it's not the most interesting mission outside of using security turrets to protect Amy Chen, government agent and this mission's companion, using a Roomba to open a locked door, and the biblically accurate P90. So let's talk about something much more important. The character writing, and specifically Cortez. Now, you don't really get development around any characters really. Not that kind of game, not that kind of runtime. They're all caricatures of tropes, but they are all written decently well for their extremely short time on screen, in that they fill their role and bounce off Cortez really well. Usually as the straight man, because Cortez is a really goofy dude. In an era of gaming where main characters were either aggressively generic or generally miserable, Cortez stands out purely because he's a silly little guy. He chats with his past self in the most nonchalant way you like, does stuff because it's cool, and has his own little silly catchphrase that everyone else hates. And then you get this gem of a cutscene.
I'm ready.
I pressed it already.
Yeah, right. So, been with the agency long?
Yeah. 3 years in May.
You get dental?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's good. Yeah! Time to split!
I'll get the next one.
I fucking love this guy so much. Shout out to the animation team for making Cortez bounce, and for Tom Clark Hill for really selling this man's bizarre energy. Okay, back on topic. Eugenius Eugenics starts off with another light stealth section that goes about exactly how you'd expect. As Cortez explores the lab, we start coming across these half-formed mutant things that are capable of shooting lightning, but explode if shot with this specific dart gun. And this place really sells the freaky future lab aesthetic. The layout, the lighting, the weirdly discordant music. It's very Alien. Alien as in the movie, not as in the extra. You get my point. And this continues for a good while until we reach a big dumb room with 2 stations and a big dumb wormhole in the middle, so you know how this is going to go. Or do you? Now, how you think this is going to go is Future Cortez is going to come back through and you'll both be covering a different terminal. However, Cortez, not acknowledging the annoyed robot woman, has set off the alarms, so Future Cortez needs to cover Cortez while he hacks the terminal. But he doesn't have the password. Luckily, Future Cortez does know the password, and upon completing the hack, the second station activates. With Future Cortez covering you, we need someone else to handle the other terminal, so obviously that means a third Cortez comes back through to do the job, which triggers the second security system, which means they need a 4th person to help handle the new wave of bots. Let's hear it for Cortez 4! This is 3 full bootstrap paradoxes in one room, and you have to play through all of them in order. But don't worry, it gets worse. The password Future Cortez gives you to open the terminal, he gets that information from himself. The knowledge came from Future Cortez, who got it from himself. And this is the exact same for the other terminal. So in the space of 7 minutes, Cortez has instigated 5 paradoxes in a single room, and that key is still looping in 1924. But what have I told you? That wasn't the best / worst bit of time fuckery in this mission. Because this is what happens when you catch Crow.
Hold it right there, Crow. Hand them over.
Hey, hand what over?
The time device. The crystals.
What are you talking about?
Don't play dumb with me, Crow. I know everything. I know you used the time device to travel back to 1994 and tell your younger self to carry on your twisted genetic experiments using the power of the time crystals.
Really?
Really?
Well, yeah.
And exactly where do I get this time device? Don't be alarmed. It's me, your younger self. I've come from the past to give you this time device. You must take it and... I think I know the rest. Well, okay then. It's the red button. Ta-ta! I'm off to live forever!
Other than being a wonderful cutscene, this is also the most important paradox in the game. This is the predestination paradox, and it's pretty simple. It's the theory that any change you make in the past will bring the present to pass, without changes or alterations. That your actions are the cause to your current situation. And here we have Cortez telling Future Crow everything that happened to him to this point and his future plans, leading him to continue on with his evil plan and time travelling all over the place. But wait, I hear you cry. Why does Future Cortez not know of or have the time device if he gave it to his younger self? Surely this would mean he had to have had it, and 100% is keyed into his own evil plan. How do you explain that, you shiny golden Adonis? Firstly, that's a little forward, straw man I invented in the shower. Secondly, to answer that, we need to talk about parallel universes. Hey, I told you it was time fuckery. Based on how the game has gone so far, the assumption that Crow would already know and be in possession of the time device makes sense. But he doesn't. So the only rational explanation is that in 1994 there was a split in the timeline during the events at the mansion. One that followed the events as shown in the game, and one where he didn't get the time device. Only it can't, and this is where things get weird. Because young Crow didn't live out the events of his life to that point in 2052. Him skipping ahead essentially created a disconnected block of time, and a 58-year span of time that is completely immutable, where old Crow lived his life normally before his younger self gave him the time device, which he then gave to his younger self in the past. It's also worth mentioning that the younger Crow gave the old one a second time device and kept the one he was given, meaning that he built the original based on the original. So, 2 bootstraps and a complete breakdown of the concept of continuity. Also a yell that can travel through time. So, old and young Crow time travel away, leaving Cortez's only clue being the robots behind him. Turns out, young Crow set up the weapons manufacturer that created and started the robot wars. No, not those ones. "2243 is actually the worst level in the game, mostly because it's just super bland. It's just a grey mass of tunnels, driving, and turret sections. It is painfully 2005 FPS, and I mean that negatively. It basically loses all of the sauce the rest of the game has. Even the time loop sucks because it's just Cortez hitchhiking a ride with Cortez in a tank, taking past Cortez's robot buddy and sending him over to the ID tag facility to progress. The only saving grace to the loop is that it doesn't create a causality problem. At least we get to pilot a mech. That's pretty cool. Still a turret section though. And then we're into the Ultranet facility, and this level feels straight out of Star Wars, complete with robots, glass walkways over impossibly large halls, legally distinct droideka, and a big dumb giant robot. But more pressingly, this is where the final pieces fall into place. While your robot friend is interfacing with the mainframe, we stumble across the schematics of a room filled with TimeSplitter pods. In a shock twist that everyone saw coming, probably, Crow was the guy that made the TimeSplitters, and as history shows, or technically the future, he intends to release it upon the galaxy. And this would be absolutely amazing if it wasn't revealed in a reception room with the robot playing with his USB-ness. Speaking of Crow, he went and actually built himself a church to his Brotherhood of Ultra Science and filled it with this weird ass flesh tank, whose fight is basically just really advanced Bomberman. And this thing is actually Crow, the first of the TimeSplitters, who naturally gets to monologuing, and we know exactly what he's been doing all this time. See young Crow after setting up Ultranet, continuing his research and creating the first time device canonically. He also discovered the source of the time crystals, meaning he developed a way to track their residue literally before everyone else. Then he spent several years schmoozing Kalos to get the manpower needed to mine the crystals, which explains why they had weapons that were anachronistic in 1924. Once he managed that, he figured out a way to use them to stabilize his experiments, and then make himself immune to the ravages of time. This man was bouncing around the time stream in ways that would make Cortez's Paradox Parade seem tame by comparison. Also, fun fact, old Crow seemingly dies off screen after giving his younger self a time device. Shame. Moment of silence, etc. Anyway, the solution to the problem was under the island this whole time, which we would have known if we stuck around a little bit longer and completely avoided this whole entire thing. But that wouldn't be as fun, would it? Don't make eye contact with the key. Just keep going, okay? Just go. Returning to 1924, we reach the sub basement with the help of a submarine, or the sub-basement sub. And we're back to the cool retro weapon aesthetic, steampunk tunnels, and a whole ass city under the island. Great level, snarky robot companion absolutely making it so much better.
Is there a problem? Tell them to mind their own business. That's my advice. Human and a lump of rotting meat. About 1 week. How can you stand being a human?
But then Cortez comes across the assassins of the cult, who are planning to go forward in time to kill Cortez before Cortez can get in the way of Crow's schemes. Schemes Crow wouldn't have been able to accomplish anyway if Cortez hadn't gone back in time and told Crow what the schemes were in the first place. Yeah, this is getting confusing, bear with me. Also, where did they get this giant framed painting of Cortez? This is from his future file, or is it just really bizarre artist interpretation? Either way, it's mesmerizing. To maintain some vague concept of the time-space continuum functioning, Cortez returns to the present and takes out all of the assassins and shoots down the TimeSplitters mothership, because this man is nothing if not an overachiever. This is another bootstrap paradox for obvious reasons. There's also a little touch that's been there the entire game, but I needed something to pad this part out a bit. But as you're covering past Cortez, when he takes damage, you get this cool visual effect over your screen, because causality is making you take the damage he is, just really delayed. It's a little detail that thematically gives the player feedback that bing bong, you're doing a bad job protecting your past self. It's really unobtrusive too, which is actually a nice touch that a lot of games seem to get completely and utterly wrong. All good stuff. And Cortez could solve everything now, tell himself where the crystals are, but apparently he's too close, whatever the hell that means. So it's back to 1924 to grab the crystal and get out, only for Crow to turn up to stop you. A brief fight ensues, where he kills your robot friend and he's way too much of a threat for Cortez to face alone. But what if he wasn't? Anya, flying in the face of her own advice throughout the game, suggests he goes back in time to just before the fight and team up to take down Crow with himself, which surprisingly works well, actually. With Crow dead, the Cortezes set the base to overload, before finally splitting as a duo, but somehow arriving back at the base as a single Cortez. I don't know how to explain this. Quantum entanglement, maybe? Stepping back a bit, that fight we just had is where we get the first example of a third and final type of paradox. The grandfather paradox. This is so cool because when you go back in time and say, kill your granddad, you directly stop your own birth, meaning you wouldn't have been able to go back in time and kill your granddad. And this is just that. Cortez goes back in time to help himself defeat Crow, removing his reason to go back in time in the first place. But this is also a 2-for-1 special, because as Cortez destroyed the time crystals before they were refined, he stopped Crow from being able to complete his research, which means that the TimeSplitters were never created. Which means they were never able to harness time travel, which meant that Cortez never had to collect the time crystals from the space station, which meant that humanity was never able to harness time travel. It also means that Hart never died in TimeSplitters 2, welcome back Hart. And because the humans were never able to time travel, Cortez would have been able to destroy the crystals, but it goes deeper than that. Because Cortez could never go back in time, he could never inadvertently blurt out Crow's plans to Crow in 2052, meaning young Crow would never have been able to create the first time device, and old Crow would have had to go back in time to give his past self the time device, meaning the time crystals would never have been found, meaning the research would never have been completed, and there wouldn't be a reason to go back in time to stop the creation of the TimeSplitters anyway! And because time travel was never discovered, the time machine, the uplink and even the robot never existed, because remember, the robot wars were started by young Crow. And the war never happened, Earth returns to a luscious green rather than the scorched wasteland. But the General, Cortez and Anya all still remember everything. Maybe because of their proximity, who knows? And also the key is free from its infinite loop, just in time to be blown to Kingdom Come. How does the game handle this? With all the paradoxes and contradictions, inconsistencies, and wildly changing interactions with time travel, how does the Future Perfect explain it? How does it make it all make sense? It doesn't. What you get is Cortez disco dancing at the end of the universe. That's it. Save the world, then dance through the credits. Now, Free Radical probably didn't have any higher meaning or idea for this beyond wanting to make a goofy game about leaping through time, kicking ass, and well-endowed women. But I've dug this far down, created the flowcharts, done the whole Pepe Sylvia bit, so allow me to give you my interpretation. Simply put, how do you know that's how time travel works? How do you know what actions would irrevocably fuck up the timeline? People have a habit of trying to rationalize fiction because fiction has to make sense, but time travel is 100% a bunch of thought experiments that have captured the minds of millions, but we have no idea how it would actually work if it was even remotely possible to travel backwards. We're kind of like Anya, constantly warning Cortez of the consequences of his actions, not knowing if they actually would have said consequences, and the game shows time and time again that there are none, because that's not how this works. We have seen that every type of paradox, every continuity error, every mild inconsistency can exist in tandem, and has to for the story to even happen. It's wonderfully badly explained, and that's part of why it's so amazing. It doesn't care about what would make sense, and only about what actually happens. No treatise on what's going on, only the silly little man breaking reality to make reality go how reality was always meant to go. Fiction has to make more sense than real life, but what I've learned from this dumbass game is that you can't let sense get in the way of a good story. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, leave a like, maybe even comment. Maybe tell me if you came to the same conclusion I did, or if I have actually just gone completely and utterly insane. More videos to follow, don't know when, don't know why, and don't know what about, but they will happen, you can't stop me. Anyway, I have been the Resident Gremlin, and I'll see you next time.